Hey guys, welcome to my kitchen. Another big exciting day in my kitchen. Where are we going? What are we making? So today, obviously, we're not in the kitchen. We're in my home office, and I wanted to spend a few minutes with you today. Obviously, as the topic header list, the title about getting dual citizenship. So it's a question I've had quite often over the years about, do I have dual citizenship? How did I get it? How long did it take? What did it cost? Why did I get it? What are the benefits of having it? All those great questions and more. So I thought I'd spend a little bit of time with you today to discuss my story, my journey, and so forth. So to step back for a minute, so there's two families, right? The Borio family, and that's my last name. That's my parents, Joe and Judy. But that's my dad's parents, and they came from Milan. They came from a little village called Consulate d'Asti. It's just southeast of the city of Milan, and they came over when they were married, when they were young. And my dad was actually born here in the United States. My uncle, his brother, and sister were born in Italy, and I believe my grandmother was pregnant at the time with my dad when they came over. So they came over from Milan or near Milan, out of Genoa, and came through Ellis Island. So that's their side. That's the Borio side, and we were very close with the Borio side in Italy because only my grandfather, Nono Giuseppe, only he came over with my grandmother. All the other Borios, there were 13 children in that family. So the 12 other family members, they all stayed in Italy. So as a result, we had a really good relationship, and it would be where we would go visit them in that area, obviously, of Italy. On the other side, my mother, she was born here in the United States. My Nono Antonio, my mother's father on the maternal side, their last name is Toscano, and they were born in Italy, married, came over, and then my mother was born here in the United States. She was from just north of Calabria. There's a little, well, I guess it's not a little town anymore. It's a larger area, but it's called Tricarico. So that's an area that the Toscanos came from. And then my grandmother's main name is Fiorito. My dad's mother's main name is Negri. So really cool. But the difference in the Toscano family is they all came over. So all the immediate, if you will, my grandfather and his brother and sisters and everybody came over, along with actually the generation prior to that. So there was a whole bunch of them. There was like 28 or some odd number. They all came over within a matter of a year here to the United States. So we really didn't reach out to the Toscano family in Italy so much until more recently, because the majority of the immediate family had already moved to the United States. So that's just a background story. That's just kind of where we come from. So really cool, and it's great to have the opportunity to travel there and to meet them and have a great relationship with them. So in any case, I had gone over quite often when I was younger, and it was probably in my 20s. And I remember saying to my dad, like, I'm gonna buy something in Italy. I want to live in Italy. And I remember him and some of my relatives, they actually looked at that as a negative. They were like, well, why would you want to move to Italy? Like, why would you ever want to live here? Like, we moved from Italy, our family, to the United States because the United States is a phenomenal country, and the freedom and the opportunities, and look at the life that it's afforded us. So they looked at that as a step backward. So it was very interesting. I didn't get that response from my mother's side, but I definitely got it from the Boreal side. So I thought that was kind of neat. And I did share that story of my grandfather Borio when he came to the United States with my grandmother. They opened up a restaurant, and they ended up doing very well. And he shipped his convertible Cadillac, over to Italy, and he couldn't drive it in the village. It was too big to drive on the roads. So he ended up parking it up at the top. So he was a big hit, big celebrity, wanted to show everyone and kind of show off that, hey, I made it, because no one really supported him to move to the United States. So that was kind of a cool story. But in any case, I start gabbing and I go into all these tangents. So in any case, when I was a younger guy, I said I wanted to move to Italy, and then years later, I'd been going to Italy from that point at least once a year, if not twice a year. I would always go to see my relatives in Consulate d'Asti, and then I pretty much traveled everywhere. I mean, obviously, all the big areas, Rome, and then I traveled by car, by train, by plane, and all the way through Sicily, and then up through the northern area, and really loved it. I was always taken back by how different the cuisine, how different the food is in different areas. A lot of times we'll pump out videos and you'll see people talk about, well, that's not an authentic dish. And you're like, well, geez, there's essentially 20 regions of Italy. And even that breaks down to even smaller areas, because in each region you can have multiple regions. And each region can have a different recipe or a different take on the same so-called title of a recipe. So that was really interesting for me. Our family, being from North, was influenced with our cooking and our recipes from France. So a lot of our recipes would use butter, I would say, with olive oil or only butter. So sometimes people kind of get a little bit, I think, highly excited when we put a recipe out. But some of the recipes I put out are from the Borio side, and you're going to see there's going to be eggs, there's going to be cream, there's going to be butter. And then my mother's side, the Toscano side, a lot of the recipes, like in pasta, they don't use eggs, they use water, and they used olive oil instead of butter. So kind of neat. Again, something I didn't realize till I traveled throughout Italy. So that was always that was fun. My parents opened up a restaurant, and to strike that, my grandparents opened up a restaurant. So Giuseppe and Caroline was my Nona Borio. They opened up a restaurant. It was called Borio's Restaurant. And they ended up coming here when they were young, obviously had the kids, and they ended up working. My grandfather was a dishwasher, even though he was a very good cook, chef, but he didn't speak the language. And my grandmother, Borio, Nona Caroline, she didn't speak the language either. So they worked in what was called the Onondaga Hotel Syracuse. And the story goes, the head chef, or one of the chefs, cooks, had cut themselves. My grandfather was trained as a butcher, and the guy said, geez, we were getting a side of beef, we didn't know what to do. So my grandfather ended up saying, hey, I know how to do that. And he ended up cutting up the beef, and the cook said, hey, why don't you become a cook? What are you doing here, dishwasher? And that kind of started the whole process, and they ended up making enough money to buy their own business, and Borio's Restaurant was the start of it, if you will. So that was a couple of generations. So my grandparents ran Borio's, and then my dad and my uncle, my dad's brother Charlie, they took it over, and they ran it for a number of years. And then my father had two boys, me and my brother Tony, and then my uncle had two sons, and then the three of them took it over. I didn't want to go into the business. I went on to be a chiropractor, so I studied. I was a good student, loved biology, loved science, did really well, and I wanted to go in. I had a health problem when I was a kid that a chiropractor helped me out greatly with, so that inspired me to want to be a chiropractor when I grew up. So in any case, what happened was we started developing a lot of these recipes, and with my brother and my cousins, and I said, geez, I'm going to put together some videos, and I ended up buying a place in Italy, so we'll get into that. So again, going back now about 17, 18 years ago, I'd been traveling to Italy multiple times, and I fell in love with more of the southern Italian, if you will, geography. I fell in love with the hills. I loved more of a sandy beach. I liked it to be a little warmer. I noticed that, northern Italy gets cold. I mean, they have seasons very similar to where I grew up in New York State, upstate New York. So not quite as much snow, not quite as cold, but, it was rainy, it was colder. I didn't like that when I traveled in November and January after Christmas. I was like, wow, I didn't expect that. I always thought it was kind of warmer and sunnier. So that led me to look further south. And when I went to Puglia, which is right above the heel, for some of you guys that aren't familiar with it. So if you go to Puglia, I just fell in love with Puglia. Now, if I go south, it's a little flatter. If I'm up north, it is in northern Puglia. It's definitely rockier. It's got more hills. It's got a lot more elevation. It had some forests, which were just beautiful. And I really love the northern Puglia area. I thought it had really, for what I was looking for, it had everything. So it was warmer. It still had seasons, which I love, but it was warmer. It wasn't all flat like southern Italy, if you will, southern Puglia. But I also wanted it to be old, untouched. I really like that. It's close enough. There's a train right in the village. I can hop on a train and pretty much go anywhere I want throughout Italy or Europe, for that matter. So you still had the ideal situation to go anywhere. I can hop in a car, and really within a matter of a few hours, I could be pretty much anywhere. They have high-speed trains you can pick up in Pescara, or even Foggia for that matter, and I could pretty much be anywhere. I was a few hours from Naples, Amalfi Coast, southern Italy, Calabria. So I just loved that area. I just fell in love with it. I also fell in love with the people. The people were very salt of the earth, just wonderful, beautiful people. And I made a lot of friends, and I tended to connect really well. The house that I purchased was an absolute ruin. It was, no roof, no road, no power, no plumbing. It really needed a tremendous amount of work, which I did, and I did that over the number of years. So you don't have to be an Italian citizen to buy property, which is great. It's actually quite easy to buy property. You'll need a codus fiscale. You'll need a social security number, which you'll get assigned really when you close. You're going to put a purchase offer. So you're going to basically put a document in that says, I have the intention to buy, right? And then what they do is they do a search to make sure that there's no conflicts with the title of the property. And that's pretty much all done by the notary office, the notaria. And then from that, you go down and you set a date. Because I was the United States citizen and my primary language is English, my Italian's okay. By no means can I speak fluent. I didn't grow up with fluent Italian. My grandparents wanted to speak American on both sides, and they thought it was actually they really wanted to be Americanized. They did speak Italian to my parents often, but it was also dialect, so it wasn't even formal Italian. In fact, I don't believe Italian in Italy, was defined to be the national language until like the 1950s or 1960s. So it's not unusual to find a tremendous amount of dialect throughout Italy. The town that I'm in now, Vico del Gargano, which means village of Gargano. Gargano is a region of Puglia. Is primarily dialect. So if you see anyone 40 years or older, their primary language is dialect, which doesn't even sound. It has no semblance of Italian. Yobon is like hello, rather than buongiorno. So assalaut, is like salute. It's a very different language, a beautiful language, but different language. So in any case, so I fell in love with that area. I bought the house. And then I had to hire contractors. So for me, my cousins from northern Italy, who were just wonderful, the Borios. So they would help me find contractors. So that helped me out a lot. I could compare what the cost was, the cost of materials, the cost of labor. I had somebody that could get down there periodically, right? Because Italy's on the other side of the world, and I'm living in New York, and they were able to communicate effectively through photographs, through video, and through traveling down, which they did many times. One of my cousins is an architect, Marcella, so she helped me out significantly with the drawings. And then Piero and Paola and several cousins, Gianluca, they all basically helped out to oversee it. Not necessarily physically all the time, but so that really helped me out a lot. So that's a concern. A lot of times when you buy property, are you paying the right fee? What should it cost? You don't want to get ripped off. And unfortunately, in Italy, like anywhere else, there are some people that are wonderful craftsmen and honest and good. And I think 80 to 90% of people are like that. But unfortunately, there's other people that are going to take advantage. So you definitely want to, if you get something, you want to make sure you have some people you can trust to validate and verify what's going on. So I was going through that, and then I wanted to, the land we bought made olives and olive oil, and so we wanted to start producing olive oil, and we wanted to wholesale it there. And this is a number of years after. So the property I bought was about 18 years ago. So it took about maybe 10 years to make it livable, rentable. I did Airbnb, VRBO on the property as well to help out with costs. But it took a good 10 years to really make it livable. We bought it for low hundreds, about 120, 130,000. I had several acres of land with the house, but again, it was a ruin. And then I put quite a bit into the property, several $100,000 into the property at this point to make it what it is. But that included purchase of additional property and all kinds of renovations. And there's more than one house on there and such. So probably in the main house with what I needed was around $100,000 to $130,000 on top of the 120, 130 I bought it for. But again, it's a villa, and it has land and all the other types of features. It's not like a small unit you would buy in a village, if you will, like a condominium, or apartment. So in any case, going through that, I started to talk to some people, and they're like, geez, what are your intentions? And I said, geez, I'd really like to live here over a long period of time. And they said, wow, that'd be great. And then because I was starting to operate a farm, like a business, everyone said, geez, it would be a lot easier to get your citizenship. So I said, okay, what do I have to do with that? So not that, again, that I'm the legal expert, but you're basically nowadays allowed to do it on either side. There was some restriction based upon age, year cutoff, whether or not a female could pass on your citizenship. But the way Italy essentially works is it's really through blood. So what had happened here is if your grandparents or a child comes to the United States, back in the day, you had to denounce your Italian citizenship. So when my grandparents became naturalized and they said, hey, I want to be an Italian citizen, American citizen, they had to denounce. You don't have to do that now. They had to denounce their Italian citizenship. But because my father and my mother were born before they were naturalized, so they were born before they were naturalized, that meant their blood, if you will, was never denounced on their Italian citizenship. So even though they were born in the United States, because my grandparents technically were Italian citizens, they weren't American citizens yet officially, because they were Italian citizens at the time, that allowed them to retain their Italian citizenship. And that was both on my dad's side and my mother's side. So it really worked out great for me. I believe you're allowed to go back 2 generations unless they've changed it. So that allowed, you can go back to your great-grandparents. And so that was the first hurdle. Was I eligible to become an Italian citizen? And once I did some research, I found that yes, I could easily do that. So I went down just to the county courthouse. I got my naturalization papers for both of my grandparents on the Borio side and the Toscano side. And I saw easily that, I had my parents' birth certificate, so I could easily see that, hey, my parents were born prior to the naturalization of both my grandparents. So that was easy. That made life easy for me. So that's the first hurdle you need to check. Are you eligible? If you go on some of the websites, I did bridges, Italian bridges, and I used a guy by the name of Mark Massey. He still does it. I thought he was fantastic. It cost you money. So I had to spend several $1,000s. I'll get into that for a minute or two. But that's who I used, and it was relatively easy. It just was really, really slow. So in any case, you got to find out whether you're eligible. It's pretty easy. There's a couple of quick questions they'll ask you, and you'll know pretty quickly whether or not you're eligible. Now I'm eligible. Now I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? So I went and looked at Two Worlds bridges, I believe it was, or Two Worlds, bringing two worlds together. And it was Mark Massey. He was out of Illinois, the state of Illinois, out of Chicago. And he was the one I decided on. I did that because of some research I did. And this is going back maybe 9 years ago, I believe, 8 years ago when I got it. So Key came out well. And I also talked to some people that had used several people. One of them was him, and they had good things to say. No offense against Mark. I don't know that he'll ever watch this video. Probably not the most personable guy. Did have a lot of personality, charisma. Maybe he's just burnt out. But it was great. So it was fantastic. So we did that. I hired him, and then the work started. So basically, Mark sent me a checklist of everything we needed. And he said, listen, there's a fee if I do it versus you do it. And whatever you can do on your own, it'll save you some time and money. And I was like, great. So basically, we had to go back and get my great-grandparents, my grandparents, and my parents, all of their birth certificate, naturalization records, etc. The originals, stamped, can't do a photocopy, and all of that had to go to Mark. So once he had the certification of everything, then what he did is he had to have everything translated, and then he had to everything apostilled, which is the kind of like an international notary that basically says, hey, look at this document coming from the United States that's now been translated. This document has been notarized to be official no matter where you present that document. In this case, I assume it would be throughout Europe. So that's what happened. So I got all of those documents ready to go. As soon as I got near the end, now that took approximately about a year to get all those documents, maybe about a year and a half. That was getting all the documents. Some of them I couldn't find. Then Mark had to do his research because we couldn't get all the documents. Many of the documents had to come from Italy. I ended up doing it through my mother's side because I wanted to get more information from my mother's family, the Fioritos and the Toscanos, because we didn't know as much about the great-greats in that side of the family as we did with the Borios. So that's why I did it. It was just a preference thing. And I ended up becoming a citizen through Tricarico, not through the Costioli near Milan. So for what it's worth. But in any case, so that was kind of cool. That was fun. We found out a lot about the Toscanos. We found out a lot about the Fioritos. Some of the names, their true names, obviously where they came from, what they did for work, how old they were. Some of them died much earlier. What they did in the trials, tribulations, the struggles they went through to get here to the United States. It was really amazing. So that itself, I thought, was a great journey and a great benefit in an effort, the genealogy, to get my citizenship. So anyways, we went through that. Everything got apostilled. All of my records were ready to go. And then Mark Massey said, okay, you need to set up an appointment with the consulate. Now, I'm in New York. There's several consulates, Italian consulates throughout the United States. You have to go to the consulate that's related to your area. Again, hopefully nobody from the New York consulate sees this. They were not the best. They don't have a very good rating on Google. Very delayed. I found them very disorganized. I didn't find them to be very warm or pleasant. I found them to be, just way overwhelmed with the number of requests based on the number of people that were there to process it. So it took me over a year. Now I believe it's 3 to 5 years, as crazy as that is. That doesn't mean you can't get in sooner because you'll get cancellations. But it took me over a year to get an appointment. So that was just to present my paperwork for citizenship. And you had to do that in person. So I got all my paperwork done. I would say that we spent around $3,500 to $4,000, or I did. Both of my younger boys, Vito, Anthony, and Joseph Rocco, my two sons, they were under the age of 18 when we applied. So that was my other push. I wanted to make sure they both got Italian citizenship, which they did. So then we applied for the appointment, or I did. I went down, met with the consulate. Then you sit with one of the representatives, and then he, in this case, a man, he looked at all of my paperwork. So he looked at everything and said, okay, this is good, this is good, this isn't. There were some issues. I had to go back, and that's another part of the story, but not a big deal. So in any case, they looked at everything, and they said, okay, simply put, you're set. So I remember him taking this box of paperwork that now we're 2.5 years in, $4,000, and he literally turned at a desk, because it wasn't like all high tech, and he puts it on the top of a pile. And I remember like, oh my God, is this gonna be okay? Is everything, is it gonna get lost? How long is it gonna take? So all those questions that I had asked him. And I had to pay, I believe it was around $250 fee. And he said, cash, euros. So he said, okay, you're all set. We'll let you know. And that was about it. So I just sat patiently, and I figured it would be, it's probably going to be a year. I don't know what's going to happen. I heard stories back and forth. But now I'm starting to talk to several people that are doing the same thing I'm doing. And it wasn't long at all. It was around a month later. I had gotten a letter from the Italian Consulate congratulating me, which I still have, which was great. And it said, hey, congratulations, you're now officially an Italian citizen. So welcome to Italy. And I became a citizen of Italy and the city of Tricarico. And then both of my sons, like I said, Joseph and Vito, they also got their letters the same day. So we all became official Italian citizens. So that was the beginning of it. Then I don't have my passport yet. So now I have to apply. So that took me 6 months. So once I became the Italian citizen, it's official. Now I had to apply for my passport. So I had to apply, which took us 6 months to get there. Same thing. I will tell you what was really neat and different was that now when I walked into the consulate, if you're a non-citizen, you go to the left. If you're a citizen, you go to the right. So they were definitely nicer when I went to the right than they were to the left. So that was really neat. So it was a part of the consulate I'd been to a bunch of times that I hadn't been into. So I went to the right. They gave me a coffee. The woman that I worked with was fantastic. Same thing here in the United States. You bring in your photographs. It was about $150 euros cash you had to have. And I got myself and my two boys, we got our passports. So that took about another month after we sat with them. You can rush it if you have a concern, obviously for travel or emergency benefits. So I went through there. I did that. And then I got my passports about a month later. And that's the journey of getting my citizenship. A couple other parts to the story was that after I applied, I started getting these letters. So the first set of letters in a really big envelope from the Italian consulate was congratulations. So that was great. That was really exciting. And then about a month later, I got my passports. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got 3 passports for the kids. That was awesome. That was so exciting. And, so you get your passport, which is, just like the United States. But it was really fun. It was nice to have that conversation with my parents, who are now really excited for me. So they were really pumped up. And I got a lot of support at that point. I think they saw the value and benefit in it. And then I got another letter, and it was for voting. And I said, wow, this is great. So started paying more attention to that, because that's certainly a privilege we have here in the United States, which I vote. And I wanted to make sure as a citizen, I was becoming a good citizen of Italy. So I wanted to educate myself on who to vote for. So I vote now every year. You'll get a letter from the Italian government with your absentee ballots. So that was great. And then the fourth letter I got was speeding tickets. So I was like, they got me. So I think it was about a 3 or 4 year series of tickets. It was around $1,000. I don't think they knew who I was or where I was, but I did get an envelope with a whole bunch of parking and speeding tickets that I now had to take care of. So that was like, well, welcome to Italy. So So that was kind of funny. And so since then, we have a business there. What are the benefits? I want to go over that. I know I was trying to keep it under 30 minutes. I'm going to be over here. So what are the benefits of Italian citizenship? So I would say the first part for me is it makes it very easy for me to do what I want because I have a property there. And when it comes to buying more property, as easy as it was, it actually makes it even easier. To travel in and out of the country makes it easier. Anybody that's gone to Italy, you get off your plane, there's 300 people in line. But on the EU side, the Italian citizen side, there's nobody in line at all. So you can get in through customs very quickly. You can also get out through customs very, very quickly, that could save you a couple hours immediately. Right from the go. The other benefit is you could travel anywhere in Europe that's an EU. So when you become an Italian citizen, you'll notice you also become a European Union citizen as well. So any country within the European Union, you could travel very easily throughout all of Europe. You can work in any country throughout Europe, which is really great. So if you're somebody that maybe has a professional degree or somebody that wants to move to Europe and you want to do things online, what have you, you can move pretty much anywhere you want and stay as long as you want once you have your passport. So that's fantastic, right? So I don't have to worry about visas of any type when I'm in Italy. So I've got some notes I wrote here that I wanted to review. So we talked about employee benefits and travel benefits. Those were great. The other benefits was that through school. So my son, Joseph, he ended up going to culinary school there for 1 year. And that's a whole other story. And I want to cut back on time. But anyway, so you get a significant savings if you're a European Union / Italian citizen versus a foreign student. So he was able to get a significant discount. Also, like we have here in the United States, you'll have state colleges, state universities. If you're a resident of the state, you're going to pay a considerable amount less. In Europe, it's even less. I mean, literally, it'll be under $1,000 to go to a college, at least tuition cost. So that was fantastic. So my son took advantage of that. My older one, my younger one may be as well. He's a junior in college right now. So we're really excited about that. And even yourself. So if you're somebody of a certain age and you're like, hey, listen, I want to go to Europe and I want to go enroll in one of the universities, you can do that. And just remember, that allows you to enroll in the European Union universities. So different countries will actually have different costs. And there are thousands of universities that allow you throughout the European Union where you could go to school there at a very, very minimal fee because now you're a European Union. The other part of it, the benefits, again, depending on how old your kids are, if they're under the age of 18, I believe, you could pass citizenship on to them. So if you become a citizen, just like it did with my parents and my grandparents or great-grandparents, now you're a citizen, you'll pass that on to them. The other good news is when you become a American citizen, you don't have to denounce your citizenship anymore. So it doesn't affect that at all. It's very easy to have dual citizenship, and anyone coming from another country doesn't have to denounce their citizenship. So protection benefits, that was the other one. So if you're overseas, no matter where you are in the European Union, or in this case, Italy, you're protected. So you can go to either embassy and you're going to be protected with your legal and state rights because you're going to be protected on the laws of the Italian government and those under the United States government. So again, it gives you a greater degree of protection, both from legal representation, both from the United States State Department and the Italian government and the European Union. So the European Union has rights as well that you now benefit from to make sure that you're legally protected. And again, that may be something that sounds obscure and it would never happen, but again, when you read stories, something can happen over there and you'll be properly taken care of. Healthcare benefits are another real big benefit. So the Italy, believe it or not, has one of the best national healthcare systems of the world. And a very good friend of mine lives in Europe right now, and he in Italy, and he had some health challenges, and he had in a horrible situation health-wise, but he had phenomenal care. And when he had to have open heart surgery, and he had some colon cancer, all of that was rectified. All of that was fully covered. So as an Italian citizen, as soon as you become an Italian citizen, and some of this as a U.S. citizen without being an Italian citizen, but you get your emergency care covered immediately, 100%. And then there's other services within the healthcare system for long term that once you apply and get registered, you are then fully covered. There is, if you're going to be a resident there, you do need to pay a small fee to get into the system, but it's a very nominal fee for the year, like $100, $150. I did have to enter what's AIRE, A-I-R-E. That means now I'm registered. The government knows who I am, which is probably why I got my speeding tickets, where I live and such, that I'm not a resident. But that did help tremendously when I go to Italy. So I have that number that I'm registered with AIRE, and I have my Codus Fiscale. I've got my so-called Italian Social Security number. So pretty much anywhere I go, whatever I need to do, as simple as paying my electric bill, property taxes, which are very nominal, by the way. I pay a couple $100 a year for my property taxes. All of that is registered. They know who I am, and it makes life a lot easier. Italy wasn't known. There's a lot of levels of bureaucracy there. It can be very difficult depending on where you're at. I do see it getting much better in the 18 years that I've been there, but having some of these numbers and being registered does help tremendously speed things up. And then having some representation. I have some very dear friends in Italy that speak fluent, that live there, whether they're Italians or people who did the same thing that I'm doing. They've been very helpful and instrumental in helping me out. We talked about property purchase. It becomes a lot easier. Also, when you move to Italy, you don't have to pay any taxes on anything if you're a dual citizen. So I just shipped my second car over there. Household goods. I shipped over some ATVs, a UTV, a trailer. And because I'm an Italian citizen, I don't have to pay any duty. I don't have to pay any taxes on the goods that I shipped over. The other benefit too was a cargo container. It cost me just under $5,000. So I bought a 40-foot cargo container, which is about 8 feet wide, 40 feet long, 8 feet tall. And let me tell you, we packed that puppy. So it's filled. So we could bring everything over. You still got to go through customs out the United States and into Italy, but I don't have to pay any taxes on anything because I'm an Italian citizen. So that was great. We talked about voting benefits. I had written some notes here, and I talked about the kids. I think the last part of it, maybe part of it is a novelty, and then the other part of it is the legacy. So I think there's a novelty to it. It's cool. It made me feel closer to my family. It made me closer to that circle of life, if you will. Wow, my grandparents came over to have a better life, and I'm going to go over there to have a better life. So I think there was that part of it, that feeling of being connected. It was cool. It was neat. It was a novelty. And then the legacy, the fact that, hey, my children now are Italian citizens, which means very easily now their children and everyone else will have dual citizenship. So you really become a citizen of the world by doing such. So obviously the United States will be my home. Obviously the United States, I was brought up American. I was brought up in the U.S. My pronunciation, some of you guys have been a little harsh on me, maybe rightly so, when I speak Italian, or some of the dishes, I always say it like an American, and I have to really stop and think about, okay, wait, my pronunciation has to be that of Italian. When I'm in Italy, people always grab my face and, oh, you speak it so hard, and you need to speak it soft, piano, speak slower, it's kind of funny, but to be connected that way and to have the friends and to be able to travel freely, to have that connection with my families, both the Toscano and the Borio family. Also, to know that my children and their families, when I pass on, they can have the house and then they can live there. And my dream is that, I hope generations to come can enjoy the home that I purchased and renovated, and it'll enrich their lives. It'll enrich their culture. It'll enrich their perspective of the world. So those are the benefits that I found having dual citizenship. Moving there is another video, and there's some people that have done some great work out there. So I'm going to be there for quite a bit of time over the summer. So I'll be posting quite a few videos. They'll be shorter than this over there, and talking about some of that. And I'm sure this video will at least start the conversation with some other questions. So I'll certainly do what I can to respond as best as I can in a timely fashion. And I'll answer some of your questions, or I'll at least lead you to where I went or what I did in order to get through some of those obstacles. A couple of people asked me, would I do it again? Absolutely, 100%. Do I have any regrets? None whatsoever. And again, I think the biggest question I get is like, what's the real benefit? What are those real benefits? And that's why I wanted to go over that with you. I think if you want to live there, at least for part of the year, if you want to own something, absolutely. If you want to have the ability to work there and feel secure with your health benefits, and to be properly taken care of, and to be able to travel freely and not have to worry about taxes and and all those other complications that come with trying to get a visa and such, I would say absolutely go for it. Lastly, like I said, you do need to register with the consulate as soon as possible in order to get an appointment. It'll put you out for quite a long time. My advice, though, is schedule it and then put yourself on a waiting list. The number of people that cancel is huge. So it could say, hey, you're going to be upset and go, wow, it's going to take me 2 to 3 years to get out there. And then all of a sudden what's going to happen is somebody's going to cancel. You could be there in 3 months or 6 months. So absolutely get on a waiting list, but have your ducks in a row. Just be ready that when they call you, you got to have your documents ready, and you got to be ready to go, or you're going to lose that opportunity. And I think if you miss 3, they shut you down for a year. I believe if you miss 3 appointments, you can't make another appointment for a year. So don't screw around with it. Take it very seriously. Make sure your email, phone, everything's well connected so that they can get hold of you and you can take advantage of that waiting list. So, okay. Hey, love and appreciate you guys always. Thanks for all your support on Cooking and Talent with Joe. Hopefully you found this video not too long, because I was trying to keep it at 30, but enjoyed the story. Ask me any questions you want, and whatever I can do to help you out, I'd be more than happy to. And then make sure you follow along. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. Make sure you hit the notification bell by all means. And then make sure you give us a thumbs up. It'll help share our videos to other people. And then also share our videos. Any of our cooking videos or our posts / stories, what have you, our shorts. Share them as best you can to help other people that love Italian cooking, love authentic Italian cooking and stories, and some of these travel tips and ideas. Certainly it'll help them out as well. Okay? Hey guys, until I talk to you next week, buon appetito!